presentation. And the first thing on the agenda is recognitions.
We're going to do our champions of the month, and unfortunately, our staff champion of the month, we're not going to recognize until the next board meeting due to an extenuating circumstance. But we are so proud to be able to recognize our student champion of the month. I want to read to you all, again, like I did last month, the nomination form for our student champion of the month, and his name is Garen Hayden. Garen is, and this is from Cassie House, the principal at Peaks Mill Elementary. Garen is definitely a student that I would name as a champion. He is so focused on his work each day because he knows how important the time is when learning. When going to small groups, Garen always holds his partners accountable and even gets them back on topic if they are distracted. His tenacity for learning is easy to notice, but his kindness and respect are yet another reason this quiet leader is a champion. And knows exactly what it means to be a patriot. He also is part of our ASP program after school. While the end of the day can be tiresome and some are grumpy, Garen makes sure to help the younger students if needed and volunteers to help out the teachers. Peaks Mill is incredibly proud of this young man and his love of learning, respect, and kindness in our building. And I am too, and we all are. We went to Peaks Mill Elementary this morning, and we surprised Garen with the championship belt and the boxing champion robe. And now we're going to give him a gift card and recognize him here in front of the board. Congratulations, Garen. You are everything we want all of our students to be. Come on forward.
Yeah, I guess.
Thank you so much.
You buy chips and popcorn, don't let your mom get what you see.
Yeah. Congratulations. Come on. Can Mom get one?
I'll get one.
Okay. Yeah.
And as I mentioned to Garen's mom, congratulations, you've done a wonderful job. So thank you.
All right. All right, the next item on the agenda is public comments. We do have one public comment from Lewis McLean, and you've got up to 3 minutes, and here's your podium right there.
It'd be okay for me to remove this on up to speak. Again, I appreciate the opportunity to come before you. My comments are going to be brief. My issue coming to you all basically is I understand, having been a public servant in this community for 25 years, I understand responsibility, accountability, and the strive to achieve excellence, and how difficult it actually is. Understanding also that positions within the system, I also understand the chain of command, accountability, and responsibility. And when that breaks down, what the impact can be, not just short term, but long term. Obviously, that means something to you all about the recognition that you just gave out to that young man. What I'm here about is expecting the same thing from staff and personnel. That'll be the last comment I'll make regarding personnel. I'm just saying, someone take an honest look, an honest evaluation, and when production, whether it is guided, counseled, whatever the case may be, if it doesn't produce as you would expect, somebody do an honest evaluation on that. And for folks that are in those positions, that is their expectation. That is their role. If it's not about teaching or instruction or whatever the case may be. But if that's their only role, then there should be accountability and there should be results. not just blindly asking folks to trust a process that does not produce and has not. I appreciate the opportunity. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer those. Otherwise, that's what we have. I also will tell you that having gone through the school system, my wife and I both, all three of my children, and my 8 grandkids, I am determined about this, and I am committed to it, because I've got too much at stake for not. I made a promise to them all along, and so I am determined about it. Whatever you all do, I'll make the adjustments that are on my end that I would expect, and I appreciate you doing an honest evaluation on it and considering what I brought to you.
Thank you very much. All right, next item is new business. First is approve elected members of the Certified Appeals Panel.
The item is to approve elected members of the Certified Appeals Panel for the 2021-2022 school year. This is something that we do every year. The returning member is Susie Heller. The 2-year member is Carrie Hyatt, and then the alternates Lori Fraley and Jessica Williams. The recommended motion is to approve the elected members of the Certified Appeals Panel for this school year.
You've heard the superintendent's recommendation. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, any questions or comments? All right, all in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. All right, motion approved. Next item is the second reading and approval of updated policy 09.124.
We have made the changes that the board recommended at the last meeting. The update to policy 09.124 is to remove the mandate of charging tuition for out-of-district students. It is attached for the second reading and approval. Readings were done on August 2nd, 2021 and September 7th, 2021. The recommended motion is to approve the updated policy 09.124 as presented.
All right, you've heard the superintendent's recommendation. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, any questions on this? Okay. All right, all in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. The next item is the second reading and approval of policies 03.1231 and 03.223.
And this is an exciting update to policies 03.1231 and 03.2231 to add an additional day of personal leave with pay for full-time classified and certified employees. There will now total 3 days of personal leave each school year, and is attached for the second reading and approval. The first reading was on September 20th, 2021. The recommended motion is to approve update policy 03.1231 and 03.2231 as presented.
You've heard the superintendent's recommendation. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, are there any questions or comments on this? I think we talked about it the last time we were here. All right, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, approved purchase of 4 buses.
Brad McKinney spending money again out there wherever you are, Brad, I see you. Brad McKinney, Director of Transportation, is requesting approval to purchase 2 84-passenger diesel buses and 2 72-passenger propane buses. We continue to look to always add to the propane fleet. It's doing very well, but we do need those larger buses as well. And right now, there are not propane options for those large pusher buses. The total of 4 buses with all options and cameras is $540,656. Attached are the detailed quotes and authorization forms. I want to thank Brad for continually updating our fleet. We're in wonderful shape because of his strong leadership, so thank you for that. And I also want to thank Shane Smith for finding the money in the budget for us to be able to do this and try to move away from the kiss the lease option as much as possible. The recommended motion is to approve the purchase of 4 buses as presented.
You've heard the superintendent's recommendation. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Who wants these buses?
Who wants buses?
Who wants these? Brandon.
I'm just glad that we're continuing to get the propane buses. I know we can't completely switch over to propane, but I'm glad we're kind of keeping that in the mix.
And the propane are working out great. We're having zero mechanical issues out of them right now, and all the drivers love them. And our discipline has reduced on those buses a lot because they're a lot quieter and the kids are not as loud as well. So it is making a difference with it.
Brandon, I believe there are other school districts that are coming to visit you to look at those buses. Is that correct?
Yes.
That's good.
And yes, Anderson County came down and.
I didn't ask for names. I just.
I'll see you over there.
All right. We're ready to vote? Okay, all in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. The next item is section 7, school-based decision-making / school request.
The board approved allocating $500,000 in Section 7 funds to schools to use at the August 2nd, 2021 meeting. Attached are the SPDM school requests received, and you can see all of those requests on there. The recommended motion is to approve the Section 7 requests as presented.
You've heard the superintendent's recommendation. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Any questions? All right, all in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. All right, motion carries. Next section is reports to the board. First is August financial report.
Yes, the August financial report is attached for your review and approval. The recommended motion is to approve the August financial report, and we have Mr. Shane Smith here to answer any questions if you have.
All right, you've heard the superintendent's recommendation. Is there a motion to approve?
Make a motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions? All right, all in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item is superintendent's personnel actions.
Personnel actions taken since the last meeting of the board are presented for your information.
All right. No vote on that one. Reports from school council.
Draft minutes from school site-based decision-making councils are presented for your review.
And instructional services update.
So Charlotte Six is unfortunately under the weather and is unable to join us tonight, but Kim Young, our Director of Assessment and Program Effectiveness, is here, and she's going to pinch hit, and she wants to give a presentation over our recently related data.
Yes. So I just want to do a brief review about the data that has been released by KDE through our school report card. So if you want to dig even deeper into it, it's available through that. So this is through our 2021 data release from KDE. So just to start, can you start at the beginning? There we go. All right.
Just point at me.
Some of the reporting for the 2021 school year, there is no accountability this year that was waived. So you're not going to see any indicators, you're not going to see any ratings, there's not stars. It is based on students who were assessed. So typically in the past, it's kids who are accountable to us, they're students who have been with us 100 days. But the 2021 school year, it was any student who was in the building that took the test. So you're going to see that's a little different than what we typically look at. We also got some participation information, which is really interesting. Typically, you have to federally have at least 95% of your students participate. So participation information really wasn't that grand, but this year it was anyone who came in and took the test. So we are going to look briefly at some of that participation data. And, some of the basic data, we usually see the graduation rate. We'll go over it as we go through. So some of the differences that may impact results, obviously the COVID-19, the different aspects of education that were impacted this year. The tests were different this year. They shortened them. They were less questions, less amount of time. Social studies not in there. It was supposed to be a field testing year, but they did away with that. So there'll just be some differences. We've really used it as what is that temperature check to better track and address our COVID-19 school recovery. I talked a little bit about this, and you guys are well aware. Our closures, access to technology was a big piece of what we did last year. The different learning supports, we had test modifications. But let's go ahead and start really looking into some of the data. One of the things I'm going to say, you're going to see some suppressed data, and this is comes down from the state. But if you are able to identify what a particular student score received, then that data can be suppressed. In the past, it was typically if you had a subcategory with fewer than 10 students, they would suppress that data. It got larger, and so now you might have where if a certain subgroup performed all proficient, then you'd be able to know that this one student was proficient, so they suppress that data. So you'll see a lot of suppressed data, especially when we look at some of our subcategories. So some of the bright spots for the 2021 school year, we definitely focused a lot on access to curriculum. And so our technology department, our schools worked really hard. 100% of our students received Chromebooks to access remote classes. We had hundreds of hotspots that were given out to families who did not have internet access on their own. We had an increase in our graduation rate. We really thought about making sure we kept that at the forefront of what we did and naming and claiming kids and making sure that just because we have this huge COVID impact that kids are still graduating. That's still a big part of everything we do. 93.3% of students in the climate survey felt their teacher welcomed them in class, and that was a middle, elementary, and high average. Writing improved in high school, and it was almost 20% more proficient distinguished students than the state. So we'll kind of look at that. We're very excited about that in our high school. Our ACT scores were higher than many surrounding counties and districts, so we'll look a little bit at that. And then our participation rate was higher than the state. We were very proud, and I think that shows a lot about the relationships we have with families, the safety precautions that we took. Go on to the next one. All right, so looking at our graduation rate. So this first slide looks at our 4-year graduation rate by ethnicity. Again, we increased our graduation rate this year, which we were very proud of, but we really looked at some of those subgroups and tried to focus efforts on removing many barriers for kids. So we were very excited to have to see what our data showed, and it shows us what subgroups might we still continue working at when we look at our Hispanic and Latino students. What are some more supports we can provide to them to ensure that they're graduating on time. Here's our 3-year graduation rate by school over the last 4 years. And you'll see, especially for Franklin County High School, that has been a focus for the last 4 to 5 years. I know Mr. Pop has been a huge focus of his. We, as a district, go there. It was weekly, bi-weekly, monthly to talk about every single student and see if they are on their path to graduation. And if they're not, what are we doing? What barriers do we need to remove? William Cofield has been an incredible support where if they're not being successful in that traditional high school setting, might William Cofield be the need for them? Maybe they're working full time, maybe they, have other situations. So this has been a big help for us, but we're very excited to see our trend data. And then when we look at it compared to the state, we see the state kind of has flatlined, even gone down this past year with their graduation rate, but ours hasn't. And it's not on there, but it's the 94.8, I believe is what it is. Yes, 94.8. That we are at now, we're at the 2021 school year. So we were very excited just to think in 2017, not that long ago, we were at 80% graduation rate. So it's pretty incredible the things that you guys have put in place, that the schools have put in place to increase that. And here it is broken down by student group. And again, it's pretty alarming and exciting how, if we look at 2018, 50% of our students with disabilities graduated high school in 4 years. We're up to 83.8. We still have a ways to go, but it's a lot about that intentionality in our high schools and at our district to make sure students are given the supports they need and options, and not just the one pathway for every student. And this is our 5-year graduation rate, so that is also tracked. So if they don't make it out before, are we getting them out in that 5th year? So again, our data is trending up, and we're excited about it, and it shows us which subgroups we need to have a more focus on now. Any questions about graduation rate? I know I'm going quick, so there's a
I
lot.
just wanted
So
to
feel free
say,
to stop.
I was really good on saying that economical,
Yes.
that one, because that's usually where it's at, you know. I mean, that's, usually they're at disadvantage, and I was glad to see that.
Yes, they're doing great things to remove those barriers for those students. So this year, so prior to taking K-Prep, so you're in mind your 3rd grade through 11th grade, before they take the test, they take the school climate and safety survey. So it's a series of, I think it's about 20 to 30 questions about how they feel about their school, do they feel safe, do they feel accepted. So I pulled out just a few questions from that that I think really highlight the year last year about do they feel they're in a safe place, a caring place. And so it really gave, I think, the schools some points to look at. We were excited to see that, that second question, my teacher makes me feel welcome in their class, that as an average of that 93.3% felt that way. And then we even, Rebecca, if you go to the next slide, broke it down. Okay, so what does that look like in our subgroup areas? Is there a particular group of students who may not feel as welcome or feel their school such a caring place? So this really gives us some good student voice data that we don't typically have. And we'll be excited to see any growth from this year, from the 21 school year to the 22 school year, because they'll be doing it before they're testing again. This one is just, do they make me feel welcome in my classroom, and to see it across elementary, middle, and high, that it was in the 90s, 90% of students agreed or strongly agreed across subgroups. We were excited to see. And then this one was more, was I able to work with my teacher and classmates online? Hopefully that won't have to be a situation we even talk about this year. But it did give us some good data of, are there some groups that we need to make sure COVID recovery and COVID impact-wise that we focus on?
I was just looking at that one,
Yes,
back
sir.
up to that one, I noticed that it had dropped at the middle school in the way down. And I was, a lot of those kids was at a disadvantage working from home.
You're exactly right.
They didn't have that support there.
You are exactly right about that. So moving on to our ACT results. And so ACT last year, typically it's given in March. There were, I think they had said 9 different opportunities for our 11th graders to take ACT between that school year. Like they gave it 9 different sessions. So they really tried to make sure we had high participation rate with our ACT. And so when we look at our composite score by student group, we are the same as the state in our average. And our student groups, for the most part, those highlighted in green are above the state average. There's a long way to go with many of our subgroups. But when we looked at our data for us and not being able to do as many, to hold solid comparisons of 2 years ago, we really focused on, how are our schools and how are our kids competitive with those around us? Are we doing the things? What supports then do we need for these students in these subgroups? Because their ACT composite scores, need to go up. We've invested a lot with ESSER funds, Mastery Prep, CERT, to try to improve a lot of these in these areas. And then this looks at the subgroups compared to the state average. And you'll see a lot of our subgroups go below the state average on ACT in those areas. And this one we were really interested in, really had, we dove into a little bit is, so again, how do our students then, when we look at growing our students, are we growing them competitive to the students around us in different districts? And so we were excited to look at, our Franklin County students outscored students in ACT in all areas, more than Frankfort Independent students, higher scores than Shelby County, Anderson County. On that following slide, it goes into a couple other ones. We looked at Western Hills, really excelled compared compared to a lot of the surrounding districts and even compared to the state. So to be able to say that if you send your student to a Franklin County school, that within the area, they're going to be able to excel and be competitive more than any of those districts around us. So we were excited to see that, even though we have growth in those areas.
I'm going to jump in on that as well. I'm very proud of those scores, the highest around all of us, but we still have room for growth, and we're going to continue to focus on that. So it's a point of pride, but it's also a point of, right now we need to know what we need to put in place this year to be even higher next year.
And so the other part of ACT is meeting that Cpe benchmark, and so this just shows the percentage of students who met benchmark in 2020 and 2021, and then what the state average. So for 2021, we hang right around the state average, above in reading and English, slightly below in math. But we do see, and we expected a drop in the percent of students meeting that benchmark from 2020 through 2021 with all of our COVID impacts. So we're hoping that the next bar graph will be able to exceed all of those. So looking at our Kentucky Summative Assessment, and you're going to see that terminology used. So it's no longer called KPREP anymore, so we're changing our acronyms once again. It's KSA, Kentucky Summative Assessment, and they're even going back to the 2021 school year and calling that KSA, even though it's always been referred to as KPREP. When they changed standards, which they did for the 2021 school year, they want to change the name so that the standards, I guess you can kind of follow the changing of the standards. And so for the Kentucky Summative Assessment, and this is going to be a lot of data, so just stop me. I'm going to go kind of quick, but you can definitely dive into it with these slides. So this is our participation. And so again, I think it's important to note we were higher than the state in every area of the participation. And I think it speaks to the relationship with our families and the fact that we made them feel safe to come in. These were kids who were even virtual kids who we got to come back in the buildings. We offered them, like Elkhorn Middle offered them to come at night if they didn't feel safe to come when the other kids were in the building. We provided transportation. Peace Mill had 100% attendance. Some of the kids, I know, I think Bondurant had said that they wanted to stay and they didn't want to have to go back to virtual and go home and learn. They wanted to stay in the building. So I think it really spoke to the relationship that was built during that time that we had such high participation rate. So that's elementary, and that is the middle. And there's a lot of suppressed data, but I think it would still reflect that same thing. And then the high school. So these are our percentage proficient distinguished by content area, averaged out through the district. When we look at this, we get these scores in late August. It wasn't anything we were particularly surprised about. We had already made many decisions based on our local data, our iReady end of the year data, because we knew we had an impact. And so we have already been using a lot of the resources to try to recoup a lot of this impact on our scores. We've been, our summer school was driven by the fact that we knew we had loss in learning. And so, between your all's approval with summer school, with the 4 literacy aides that are working so hard in our schools, the social workers, all the different resources, we are definitely addressing our percentages. So this breaks it down by school compared to the state. And so you can see Collins Lane and Westridge have exceeded the state in some of the areas. So that's the reading, math, science, and writing. And from this, we knew that science is an area we have to provide more resources. And so we did have the curriculum purchased for our elementary science. We knew that was a huge area for us. And then for middle school, the percentages compared to the state from Bondurant and Elkhorn. I know Bondurant was pretty happy about their writing scores, especially being higher than the state. And I believe, I can't remember quite if they increased from last year, but they were happy with that. And then high school. And here's where I want to know where you see their writing, almost 20% more proficient distinguished students than the average of the state. So they were very excited about that. And, their science being higher, but again, we have a lot of growth in Now, this breaks it down. They say don't compare 2019, which is the last time we took pay prep, KSA, pay prep then announced KSA. But I think for us as a district, it was important to say, well, what is our loss? What are we talking about when we talk about our impact? And so generally it's about 10% difference between proficient distinguished in 2019 and 2020. So knowing that data, how are we moving forward? And like I talked about, a lot of the resources that we've invested in those areas. And this is, again, just compared to the state, looking at our subgroups. The math comparison with 2019 and 2021. And this is the math as well, compared to the state. Sorry, I told you a lot of information. Keep going. All right, so moving forward, you know our kind of tag and what we are embedding in everything we do is that every student succeeds. And so using a lot of those federal funds and resources that we have never had and probably never will again. So how are we going to address this impact? And so those are some of the ways we're focusing on social emotional learning and really just working with families and partners to address this impact and keep moving forward. Any questions?
Any questions?
I don't have any. I really appreciate all this data. I know it's a little bit overwhelming at first, but it really kind of gives you an idea on the benchmark of what we can improve going forward. And hopefully, with the resources we have right now, next year that ought to be big.
Michelle, we appreciate you giving us this.
Thank you.
report. Thank you very much. Mr. Cobb, we have the superintendent's report.
Yes, so superintendent report, I want to share a few things here. First of all, have a welcome. We need to welcome someone who just started with us today. Taking over for Dr. Jim Masters is Tammy McDonald. Tammy, stand up, be recognized. Welcome, Tammy. Tammy comes to us. She was the superintendent for Danville Independent Schools. And so we have welcomed her with open arms, and we're excited for the knowledge and experience that she's going to bring to our team. So thank you. We want to, I want to give some thanks tonight because we just had a wonderful fall break. You know, a lot of people got away, got to rest and recharge, which is wonderful. But it's a good time to kind of just pause and say thanks for a lot of blessings that we have. First of all, I want to thank first and foremost the teachers, all of our staff members, all of our bus drivers, our custodians, cooks, instructional assistants, secretaries, our directors, our principals, our assistant principals, our guidance counselors. If I've left anyone out, I want to thank them all because this has been
Rebecca, don't forget Rebecca.
well, Rebecca goes without saying. It's been a very difficult start to our year in a year in which we thought it was going to be a little different. And I think we've adapted on the fly very well. And we're having a wonderful year, and it's all because of the great work of all of you, so I want to thank you for that. I also want to thank some specific departments. John Fields with Trampus and the maintenance department, you guys are killing it every single day, and we sure appreciate all the work that you've done. You have brand new carpet in here that was just installed this week. They're making improvements all across the district, and you can see it. That, you know, in our facilities, from the time I came here 4.5 years ago now to now, I tasked John with working hard to improve the facilities, and he's done so. He's done an amazing job. So thank you, and to all of you. I wanted to thank Jennifer Perkins, our new Director of Human Resources. They've had a very busy start to the year with hiring subs, and you know, COVID brings lots of challenges, and she stepped into a new role and is really doing a wonderful job. So I want to make sure that we recognize that. I also want to recognize Kyle Sexton, our Director of People Personnel. Kyle not only has done an amazing job with our Student Services Department with all of the innovations that he's brought, but also Kyle was recognized recently for being the president of the DPP Association in Kentucky and had to organize a conference And as someone who had to do that one time, I said I'd never do it again. And God bless you for having to do that, and you did a wonderful job with it. We went to the conference the one evening, and, you know, Kyle's he's a highly regarded DPP in this state. You could see the respect that people have across the state for him, so thank you for what you do for us every day.
His wife would do anything to get him out of the house.
I also want to give kudos to Kristen Waits. Kristen is our communications and information coordinator, and Kristen has been working very closely with the Alchemy Collaborative over the past several weeks, and she's got some amazing things that are coming that are getting ready to be introduced, and I've seen some of it. And her rebranding of the district, I'm so proud of. So you're doing a great job. Thank you. Lastly, I want to throw out a huge thank you to Charla, who is not here with us tonight, but is just doing an amazing job in this new role as Deputy Superintendent. Her entire instructional team. You got to see Tammy, you got to hear from Kim tonight, Larry Murphy. Her whole team is just doing a wonderful job. Chuck Lewis in his new role, working with Charla and her team. Jimmy with technology, on down the line. It's a good time for us to always just pause and say thank you for all the hard work that you all do. And we're having a great school year. I know it's challenging, but at the same time, we're doing some amazing things and lots more to come. And that's all I have tonight. So
I want to say you forgot one person, and that's yourself. I know a few years ago when I first came on the board, you know, there was, you know, graduation rates and stuff was a big issue. And you went out into the schools and asked what they needed, and you supplied them with the needs that they had, and you've seen the results with an improvement in that almost immediately. And like I said, we want to make sure we thank you.
I appreciate that, and happy Bosses Day to you all. As being the Board of Education is very supportive, not just of me and the job that I have to do and all of us have to do, but being student-centered. You really have no idea how completely true and rare that is for an entire board to be focused on student-centered leadership, and you all are, and we're blessed to work for you. So happy early Bosses Day, and thank you.
Any other comments? Any comments? Well, I just want to say too that I want to thank the staff. I mean, I think we have a great staff. Always room for improvement. But in fact, I want to say, Ms. McDonald, we appreciate you coming on board with us too. I think you're going to enjoy the staff. We work as a team, and thank you for seeing that you come to a good place to work. So I'm not saying that Gamble wasn't, but I just want to say that we're glad that you're here. I know about Gamble football, but anyway, thank you for being a part of our family.
Thank you very much. I'm very excited to be here.
Oh, and can I add one last little thank you? I'd be remiss, I can't believe I almost forgot to say this, but we had a McConnell Foundation winner in our district that was announced a couple of weeks ago, and I don't think we've had a chance to recognize that winner.
$1,000 for every school.
And yes, exactly. And the McConnell Foundation, besides giving $15,000 as a cash prize to an incredibly worthy teacher, and that's Mr. Ryan Hale from Western Hills High School. The McConnell Foundation also gave $1,000 to each of our schools. So that money has been very helpful in buying supplies, and actually the schools are going to be using that money to reward their teachers and their staff. So thank you, McConnell Foundation, for doing that. That's all I have.
It's very important.
Yes.
Very important. Thank you, Mr. Collins. Now we'll look at the consent agenda.
The consent agenda is presented for your approval. The recommended motion is to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Is there a motion that we accept the consent agenda as it is? So moved. Motion made, is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, any discussion? All in favor, let it be known by saying aye. 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 No. There's no objection. Is there a motion that we adjourn?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to adjourn this meeting.
Is there a second? Second. Motion made and second, all in favor, say woo-hoo. Woo-hoo. All right, thank you.
Thank you all.